Let's welcome in our panelists now for the hour. We are joined by Rich Valdez, host of This is America with Rich Valdez. Also with us, retired gunnery sergeant for the U.S. Marine Corps, Newsmax analyst Jessie Jane Duff, alongside the host of the 13-minute news hour, Bobby Eberle. Panelists, thank you very much for coming on today. All right, plenty of news to get to on this Friday here. Let's begin with what's happening in Florida, right, Jessie Jane, because we are maybe going to be learning more from the Department of Justice by at least this time next week, right? Thursday's the deadline, so we should know more. Are you hopeful that we could get a little bit more details into what led to this raid?
Of course not. It took us how long to find out even that the Steele dossier was funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign? I mean, many people knew, but it was what, almost 2 years before this actually got disclosed. I don't think that the Department of Justice believes in full disclosure. I think they try to hide under the cover of darkness. This raid itself probably was one that they never even wanted to have leak out. They didn't expect President Trump to go full throttle and expose this to the American people so that they would realize that he was once again under assault. This is an injustice, not a justice. What were they looking for? The one thing that we all know is that presidents have the absolute discretion to declassify documents. We know that over a decade ago, they gave sweeping authority to President Bill Clinton when he had taken documents. And the judge, there's a precedence that this is something in which it has to be overly egregious. They're trying to imply or suggest that he had nuclear codes. Come on. The Washington Post source was probably not really a source, but something that they want to put out there so that they can taint this from the beginning to get the public support behind the DOJ.
Yeah, unnamed source, of course, anonymous source there. Let's pivot to someone who's being called out directly. This is having to do with an ad from the New Jersey chapter of the National Education Association. It's calling out parents who attend school board meetings. Let's watch.
We don't agree on everything in New Jersey, but we all agree that our kids deserve a world-class education. So when extremists start attacking our schools, that's not who we are. People who only want to fight to score political points should take that somewhere else.
All right, Bobby Eberle, tell me your reaction.
It's shocking, but I mean, the fact that this goes back to Joe Biden, right? When his own DOJ were investigating parents in collusion with the NEA, the teachers' unions, crafting a policy to go after parents for speaking out on this left-wing indoctrination that we see in school after school after school. It's absolutely outrageous. And here you see these bright, shiny, colorful pictures, and then with parents that's all gray, black and white, and sinister. This is absolutely outrageous because parents deserve to know what's going on. That was the one blessing from COVID, is people actually got involved a little bit more in what children are being taught. And now that they're speaking out, the NEA, other organizations, they don't know what to think. So they're fighting back against the parents. It's outrageous.
Yeah, Rich Valdez, if you're living in New Jersey and this comes up on your TV and you're a parent, what are you going to think about?
So I live in New Jersey and I'm a parent, and I happen to be a school board member for many years. I can tell you that this is, it would leave one incensed. And I look at this and I think, my goodness, when Donald Trump said they're coming after me, they're coming after you, but I'm in the way. This is it, right? They're doing to us what they're doing to him. To label parents as domestic terrorists or violent, domestic violent extremists because they decide to take on a communist movement within a school board is insane. And it's gaslighting as bad as I've ever seen it. I don't think I've ever seen anything this bad in my time observing politics. I think parents need to double down on this. We need our own ads. We need to move forward a little bit more aggressively to let them know that these are the Marxists that are trying to change your child's gender. And it's these same Marxists in the classrooms that are trying to overall usurp parental authority.
I've spoken to parents who've stood up at school board meetings, Jessie Jane. They aren't extremists. They're just taking issue with gender policy, gender discussions, or critical race-based theory incorporated into the classroom. Are they extremists to you?
Of course not. And many of the discussions we've heard aired have been parents that have been outraged on the over-sexualization of the education for their children, discussing sexual activity among grown adults, gay and straight activity and what the difference is, and discussing genitalia. And these children apparently aren't even at a level to comprehend sexuality at this point in their lives. Many parents are offended that there has been the critical race theory, and although many school boards have denied that they're actually teaching that, they're not teaching it by that name. It's the criticisms that they have done that have essentially stated that whites have become the victimizer and minorities are the victim. And that type of mindset isn't acceptable for children who to be influenced by color and also, again, gender. It's just outrageous that the school boards are tone deaf to what the parents want. So vote them out. That's really what parents have to do. Vote them out.
All right. Speaking of people who are no longer going to be present, shakeup at CNN. Brian Stelter, host of Reliable Sources, confirming he's out. Tweeting, "I loved anchoring Reliable Sources. It was a rare privilege to lead a weekly show focused on the press at the time when it's never been more consequential. The final show, Bobby, will be airing this Sunday morning." Brian Stelter out at CNN. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for him to finally go. I mean, the fact that they call this Reliable Sources as if it were a legitimate show to talk about the media. And yet all it was, again, it's like a version of MSNBC, just pulling in left-wing pundits to blast right-wing media and right-wing Republican officials. That's all it was. It was just a mouthpiece for the left. And as soon as this new leadership, we'll see what the new leadership at CNN actually does. I mean, their stated goal is to bring it more to the center, less opinion-driven journalism or opinion shows. We knew that Brian Stelter was on his way out. I am so happy to see him go.
There are still several opinionated hosts that do remain at the network. We'll see if
Absolutely,
any additional
yes.
changes come forward. Panelists, if you could, stay with us. Plenty more to cover. Let's bring in our panelists to get their take. Rich Valdez, Jessie Jane Duff, and Bobby Eberle are back with us now. Rich, I got to go to you. One of those guys said she's got to look for a job. Walmart's hiring. What do you think's the overall consensus for Liz Cheney and her future career?
Yeah, I'd be skeptical even if Walmart was interested. Liz Cheney's done a really bad job with a lot of people. She's only impressed a few people that are anti-Trump, pro-January 6th. It's a very small sliver of the population, and I don't think it looks good for her, not even at Walmart.
Jessie Jane, the thoughts of Liz Cheney pursuing a 2024 political career, run for president? Do you think we see it happen?
Well, she's got the greatest grift going ever because basically she out fundraised Harriet Hageman because of the fundraising that she got from out of state. So Democrats and those establishment type Republicans poured money into her campaign. She's going to use that for something. And essentially, she has profited off of her office all along with her along with the former vice president, her father. I'm happy to see her gone, and I don't think she has a home anywhere anymore.
Bobby, when you look back at the outcome of this primary race, how much was it that Trump endorsement that really put Hageman over the edge? And how much of it was Liz Cheney and her just disconnecting from those she was elected to represent?
A little bit of both. I mean, we saw in this election cycle as the primaries are going that a Trump endorsement has carried a lot of weight. His winning record is pretty much, 97%, I believe, something like that. But it's the Wyoming voters saying, look, that we clearly see a person who is out for herself. Kevin McCarthy and the GOP leadership gave her multiple chances to get back on track and actually do her job, which was to bring the House GOP caucus together, and she refused to do it. It was all about her and her anti-Trump agenda. So if she steps out there, I think the Harriet Hageman race is just foreshadowing what she would see in a GOP primary contest. She's going to get smoked, and she should find a place at the new CNN.
Very interesting. Leading me back to that question, what happens to CNN? Rich Valdez, I wanted to get your take on the departure of Brian Stelter, the cancellation of Reliable Sources, that staple in their cable news programming on Sunday. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, I think adios, amigo. I don't take any joy in seeing Stelter lose his job, but I'm happy that they're trying to move in the right direction. Ultimately, I think CNN is going to try and become profitable, something they haven't been in a long time. And in the media business, you've got to give people the information that they're looking for. And I don't think CNN's done that. It worked for a little while during the Russia hoax, and I think Americans got hip to it and said, you know what, this isn't for me. So this is a long shot for him. He'll probably find a home with Liz Cheney at MSNBC or that other place that just took on Chris Cuomo.
Is there a way that CNN could approach the news that might attract viewers who hasn't tuned into the network for months or years now, Jessie Jane?
Well, of course, any media organization can recover if they just bring in legitimate reporting and they aren't considered to be falsifying records or bringing on illegitimate people, such as what we saw during Russia collusion, congressional members that claimed that they saw the evidence, that they couldn't talk about it, but they saw it because they had access. These were all lies. And when you discredit your organization like that, you have to do a severe pivot. And I think all Americans are eager to see good news, hence why Newsmax is doing so well.
Yeah, well, we appreciate everyone who's tuning in. And again, you're not trying to alienate half of the population or demonize them or making them seem like just the worst people. No, I know people in my family, in my friend group who vote differently, and I accept them, all of them, for their political views. Bobby, let me ask you, though, we've seen recent departures, some big names from CNN. It was Cuomo, Tubin, now Stelter as well. Could we see additional shakeups at the network?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this new leadership is driven to get themselves back to profitability, back to a center type audience where they think, again, that they're fact driven, that they're story driven, issue driven, actually being journalists. That seems to be the mantra over there now in this shakeup. Will it be effective? We'll see. I wish them luck because I love, being here on Newsmax. I love getting stories where I can actually get the facts and make my own decision and not be being pushed in a certain direction because the media outlet is driven by a narrative. That should never, ever be the case. The viewer should decide.
Well, we love having you all on. Rich Valdez, Jessie Jane Duff, and Bobby Eberle. Panelists, thank you so much for coming on and have a wonderful weekend.
All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.